want to let you know that Becca is not here. And just as Serena and I were just talking, we have those people in our lives who are really good at the things that we're not good at, and we need them on our team. Well, our tech person, our person who makes all of the great things happen with breakout rooms and all of that, is not here today. So we are going to try to hold it down. The Kentucky Leads team, we're going to try to get everybody where they need to go, but please just show us a little grace this morning if we are taking a little bit more time than usual. Just a few reminders as we get started. One, mic mindfulness. Just remember to keep your mic on mute unless you want us to hear what's happening in your background or if you're ready to speak. Video on as much as possible. We know that there's some weather happening around the state today, or maybe you have some things happening around in your background and you're not ready for us to see that, and that's totally fine. But just have it on as much as possible, particularly when you're speaking is when it's most important. We want to be able to see your face if we can. A reminder that this is a recorded session so that you can go back and review it later on, and also take a break as you need it. If you need to stretch, if you need to refill your coffee or your Mountain Dew or whatever it is that you drink to get you going in the morning, please go ahead and take care of your needs. Just let us know you've stepped away in the chat. Just a reminder on how to navigate Teams. All of the buttons that you need should be running across the top of your screen. Most importantly will be your camera and your mic, which are close to your leave button. So you can click on those as you need to. You can also add reactions. So if you just want to give a clapping emoji or a heart emoji, that's an option too. And of course, your chat button will allow you to see the chat that's happening as we go through our meeting today. Ooh, somebody just requested control. I'm going to say take back. Sorry, whoever it is, you cannot have control of my screen yet. Ooh, and now I've lost the things. Give me just a second here, friends.
No worries.
Whoever it is, I will give it to you in a minute, but you cannot have it yet. Just a reminder about our team norms, just to participate respectfully. Welcome multiple viewpoints. We have a lot of, you came from a lot of places across the state, a lot of backgrounds, and so we welcome all of those viewpoints, expertise, and experiences. We ask that you devote your attention to those speaking and sharing. As I always say, be there or be here. If there is somewhere super important that needs you to be in that space, then by all means go be in that space. But if you are going to be here, then please make sure that you limit your interactions on your cell phone and your computer, and try to focus on what we're doing here today. Feel free to ask questions for clarification. You can do those in the chat. You can raise your hand. Be courageous and speak your truth, but also own your intentions and your impacts when you do that. Honor our time together. Just a few reminders on staying connected. You can always go to the Kentucky Leads SharePoint site, which is where you can find all things Kentucky Leads, including our directory. So if you want to reach out to someone outside of Kentucky Leads, maybe you found out that they're an instructional coach and you want to reach out to them, you can go there and do that. And also our Kentucky Leads discussion board is always a place for you to go and just share sort of like, hey, how are you guys handling this? Or I found this really great resource, or there's this really great conference coming up. In case you missed it, last month we talked about dispute resolution. Carol Ann was here to kind of talk to us about that. There is a link to that session. You can go to that session in our Kentucky Leads SharePoint site. Our agenda for the day, we're going to have quick check-ins and updates, and then we get to hear from Floyd County Schools. I think we have a great presentation from you guys and a great presenter. And so we will let them introduce themselves here in just a second, but we will let you hear from them, and we think you're really going to enjoy this presentation. We'll have a break. We'll let Floyd County kind of hop back in. We'll have some small group discussions, lots of breakouts today. We're going to have some group sharing, and then we'll do our evaluation and our wrap-up. And I'm going to let Mike go through the reminders.
Thank you, Ms. Shasta. A couple things to think about. Obviously, we want you to complete the end of event survey when it comes around to you. It's always important to continue our funding for the project. OSEP does read those and ask us questions about those. Next, just a little bit about your classes at your university. You should be registering, discussing with your advisor for next semester. So if you haven't already done that, that obviously needs to be up on your radar. So please get that on your calendar. Then next, just want to say a few things about the summit that's coming up on June 10th. On the evening of the 9th, which is Friday, We are going to have a meet and greet in the evening. For those of you that are able to make it in on Friday, we'd love to have you there. It'll be there at the hotel, similar to what we had last year. We'll have we'll have a presenter as well as some light food. Presenter will be Mike Miller, and he runs a Kentucky Autism Training Center, and that's a really wonderful and vital center here in the Commonwealth that many of you will be using or have already used potentially. Mike's a great resource and a super good guy, so he's going to share just an informal discussion about what they do at their center and some of the resources y'all can tap into. So that's Friday on the 9th of June, and then following day will be the summit on the 10th. And then last item is Cohort 4 applications are open. If you know of anyone that you think would be a good fit to apply to be a scholar, encourage you to share that information with them. We're already getting applications submitted, so just wanted to let you all know about that. If you see any other good potential future leaders, it'd be great to have them apply. Hope everybody has a great rest of the morning and afternoon once we wrap up. Thanks so much. Thanks, Shasta.
All righty. Does anybody have any questions before we get started today? All righty. Well, just a reminder that if you do, you can either use the raise your hand feature or you can drop that question in the chat. We are monitoring the chat, so we will see that. If not, I am going to pass it on over to our presenters today. We're going to hear from Serena Anderson, who's the Executive Officer of Instruction of Floyd County Schools. We've got to meet with Serena a couple of times. You guys are going to love her. She's super fun. I think we might already be best friends. I'm not sure. And also she has a colleague with her, Mike Bell. It's Bell, right? Who is also with her, and he is her tech guru genius. But I will let both of them give a little bit better introduction than mine about themselves and kind of what they do there in Floyd County. And then if you, Serena or Mike, either one, if you want to take control of the screen, you can do that.
Okay, Mike, if you'll take control of the screen, I also want you to go first in introductions.
Can everybody see our slide deck? Just wanted to make sure it was up there. All right, good deal. My name is Mike Bell. I'm a digital learning coach for the Floyd County Schools. I've been in this role for 3 years. I have been in education. This is wrapping up my 27th year. I was in the classroom for 24, and I'm here to create Serena's ideas. So I'm fortunate, and I have been very blessed, and she has challenged us to be better. And I think you're going to have a blast today with Ms. Anderson. Shoot it back to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I know it's a Saturday and you probably have a million things to do besides listen to me. But I want to make today so engaging for you and so meaningful for you that you leave saying, I want her to talk to us every Saturday. Okay, so that's my goal. But I am Serena Anderson, and this is 31 years in education for me. I've been a classroom teacher for 18 years. I was an instructional coach, an interventionist, a principal, instructional supervisor, and I spent almost 5 years with the Kentucky Department of Education working with the bottom 5% of schools in the state. So I was an education recovery leader, and I learned a lot about recovering struggling education systems. And I learned a lot about the needs of teachers and students. And so taking all that experience, I came to Floyd County Schools last year in February. I got hired. And I'm going to give you some demographics about Floyd County in a minute, and you're going to see why we did the work we did. But I want you to realize that what you're about to see has happened in the span of a year and a few months. But I also want to tell you that I've decided to retire, probably, most likely, at the end of June. And I have a 19-month-old grandbaby who I'm extremely excited to spend some time with. And I have a daughter who is in the Miss Kentucky pageant contest for June. So June's going to be really packed for me. And I just wanted you to see a little bit about me as a person. Now, let me tell you a little bit about me as a presenter. First of all, it's not normal for me to sit. So normally I'd be moving about. I'm high energy, but since this is virtual, I'm going to sit. I want this to be about you. So if I go too slow, if I go too fast, if you have a question, You just stop me. Mike is so used to me. He knows that I go rogue sometimes and I go off the planned path, and he can roll with me. If you need anything that I'm not giving you, I want you to stop me, put it in chat, say, hey, this is boring. Speed it up. Or, but be nice. But, tell me what you need and I'll do exactly what I can do to make sure this is a meaningful experience for you. Is that a deal? Everybody good? Good deal. Okay. So the theme of our thing today is all kids are our kids. And I'm going to give you a little background. And I know you can relate. I know it. So you just have to say, you don't even have to say anything. Just in your heart, know it. We have teachers who say, those special ed kids are not mine. Have you ever heard that? We have gen ed teachers who say, those are Miss So-and-so's teachers. Those are not my kids. Those scores, those kids don't count, right? And then we have special ed teachers who say, those gen ed kids are not mine, right? Those are Miss So-and-so's or Mr. So-and-so's. So in order to best serve all kids, we got to do away with that. All kids in this district are our kids, no matter the grade, no matter the label, they're all our children. So that's the premise we've been working from. Now, Floyd County Schools is, we're located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and we have about 5,500 students. We don't have a lot of diversity here. We're starting to get some, but mostly our big barrier is poverty. We have 3 high schools, 6 K-8 schools, 1 6 through 8 school, 1 preschool through 5th grade, and 1 alternative school. Now, on a caveat of that, we also have a fabulous school called the Floyd County School of Innovation, and it is the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And if you ever get an opportunity to bring a field trip to the Floyd County School of Innovation, you really should come. But Floyd County Schools, we have a poverty rate of about 78% free and reduced lunch, 67 to 78. So that's pretty high. And we're spread out pretty far. So, we're the second largest school district in Eastern Kentucky, second only to Pike County. So if you know where Pike County is, we're second only to them. We've had a lot of turnover in our district. We've had 2 superintendents and 1 interim superintendent in the past 5 years. And you know what happens when you have that kind of change with the head leadership? Teachers are confused, right? What do we do? Who do we listen to? What's our goal this year? This too shall pass, right? So that's the kind of mindset we're dealing with. We have a total student population of special needs students of 1,060 kids out of 55, approximately 100. You think that's pretty good? Give me a nod. You think 1,000 kids out of 5,500 is about right? Absolutely not, right? It's over. So the State Department would like to see us at about 13%. Right now we're at 18.9. But just so you know, in 2018, we were 23% special ed. So what happened over the course of time, after COVID, we wound up, after we took the KSA, we ended up with 6 TSI schools. Those schools, that means targeted support and improvement schools. So 6 of those, all for special ed. All for special ed. Now keep that in mind. So we had 1 high school, that K-5 school I talked to you about earlier, and then 4 middle schools that were all TSI for special ed. And I want to pause right here, and I want to do a waterfall activity in the chat. And I want you to tell me, why do you think we have more middle schools identified for TSI than elementary or high school? Take just a few seconds, and Mike, you lead this. You tell them what to do in the waterfall, and we're going to talk about why we have that.
All right, really quick, we want you to jump into the chat and we want you to answer that just as quick as you can, just like water going over the hill. And let's see how many responses we can get in our chat to this question. What do you think? Make a prediction of why we would have more middle school students not meeting benchmark rather than elementary or high.
Special ed students, keep that in mind, because
we're going to give you about 30 seconds.
I love what I'm seeing come through the chat. As soon as the time is up, Mike, let me know so we can start talking.
And then 5, 4, 3, 2, and back to you, Miss Serena.
So I'm seeing that we have smaller number of students, that there's less loss of engagement in learning, lack of MTSS, COVID, the length of time it takes to get qualified, MTSS, lack of intervention, lack of student supports, intervention decreases. All of those are exactly right. But we can also talk about that at middle school, we probably have less differentiation than we have at the elementary schools. Small group instruction. You know, we kind of tend to teach one size fits all at the middle school, right? We have less formative assessment to know what's going on and adjust and move and roll. We have more assignments, you know, more like do this, answer these questions versus what we get in primary with explicit instruction. So think about those kinds of things. And also, I want you to think about that at middle school, our standards go from learning the foundational skills to learning that deep embedded learning, right? So we have a real problem then, right, with core instruction. So it is imperative, based on this data, that we make some changes, right? So that was the one of our foundations. Now I want to take a minute. I've kind of set the stage for you about what Floyd County looks like and gave you some demographics. And I want you to just pause for a moment. And I want Mike to pull up that Padlet where I want you to tell me 3 things. Well, you're gonna have questions on here. I want you to tell me 3 things that you already know about MTSS and its correlation to special education. 2 ways that MTSS and special education work together. And 1 thing you would like to learn more about today. Now that you know a little bit about us, take a minute to answer that. Mike, tell them how to do it.
Yeah, if you need this link, we have dropped a slide deck into the chat. You can click that. It should take you over there. Hopefully we've got the permission set correctly. And if you click that icon, it should take you to that Padlet, and that Padlet will look like this. So as you get on there, all you gotta do is hit the plus sign and just answer your questions for us.
We'll give you how long?
For this one, let's take a couple of minutes on this one. So you know, we'll give you probably maybe about 3 to 5, something like that. Or as soon as we can see that things are slowing down, we'll jump back in. So I don't have any background music, and you don't want me to sing, so I just go ahead and jump on it and go. Okay. If you can't get to it, let us know, and we can just drop the straight link in the chat, and that may be easier for you. Got you taken care of.
I'm so excited about what I'm seeing in that list. One thing you want to know more about, y'all are making my heart palpitate because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Everything that I'm seeing there, we can talk about. And if I forget one of these and I don't address it, pop it in the chat and Mike will keep me focused. And we're going to come back to this Padlet at the end. And I hope you learned something that you asked about here. And I'm loving what you're saying in the 3 things and the 2 things, because you're spot on. If it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and start talking, just because I feel the need. Go back, Mike, if you can, to that Padlet. Just because I feel the need to address some of these things, some of the things you wrote on here. For example, I read very quickly that MTSS is not intended to prevent or increase the number of special ed kids. That's exactly right. You know, that is not the purpose of MTSS. And I'm glad you put that on there. I read, and I'm paraphrasing, but I read that, you know, both sides of the pyramid have to be taken care of, behavior and academics and emotion. And that's right. And that's a very tall order to do. It is. I'm not even going to lie to you. And then I read on there that MTSS, you know, gives the students the support they need to be successful, and not necessarily mean to refer to a special ed program. And that is exactly right. And we know that special education has a specifically designed specialized instruction for those students. So perfect answers. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're not out of TSI yet. I came last February. We got TSI label in the fall when the test scores came out. So we're climbing out of that hole. What we're about to show you is raw and real. You know, we have built this plane from the ground up, and we have worked to try to bring these students out of and these schools out of TSI. But really, we've worked to provide a quality tier 1 instruction. And I read somewhere on there that if tier 1 is done correctly, tiers 2 and 3 can be done with more fidelity. And that's exactly right. But where do we have to start? We have to start with tier 1. We cannot manage if our tier 1 is flawed. We can't intervene hundreds of kids out of, we can't tier them out. I mean, we have to have good tier 1 instruction. So I want to start by saying that in 2018, Floyd County Schools had a corrective action plan. And in this corrective action plan, it talked about how high our percentage was with special ed, but it also talked about, and I will tell you that it talked about how special ed referrals weren't done correctly, and there was lots and lots of findings. But what I'm going to talk to you about today are the findings that helped us understand that we needed to strengthen our tier 1 and we needed to fix our MTSS. So as an ER, I was stationed at one of our schools here in Floyd County starting at 2019. So they had just entered the corrective action plan. And I was on that side of it from the state level looking in. And then I became the executive officer of instruction here in 2022. So you see that I've had a little understanding of this journey along the way. But let's talk about some of the things that the corrective action plan found. First of all, it says clearly in this that districts have an obligation to provide a free, appropriate public education to all students. Now, when I see that we have 6 schools identified as TSI, I'm wondering just how clearly and how equitably this free, appropriate public education is being delivered to all students. Would that not alarm you? It does me. The district has consistently failed to implement a free, appropriate education across the district. Prior to or part of the referral process, students must be provided with appropriate, relevant, research-based instruction and intervention services in the regular ed setting, with the instruction provided by quality personnel. And there is a need for the district to implement a district-wide, proactive, positive approach to RTI. Those are just 4 of the findings. We're going to talk about more later on. So in 2018, the district hired an MTSS consultant. Now, there was 2 of them then, and they were to go out and actually help with the MTSS process. Now, 2 of them with 5,500 kids and a flawed tier 1 core base was not enough. And our MTSS program, policy, plan, procedure was very flawed, very flawed. The way that we gathered data on students, very flawed. The way we gathered data points and the instruction we provided in the intervention, very flawed. So I want you to hear from our special ed director, Cinda Francis, and I think she may have become director like after this corrective action plan had already, she was not the director when they received this corrective action plan. So she has had to work to fix these problems that she and her team did not create. Okay, so I'd like you to hear from just a minute from our special ed director. Mike, can you make that bigger so we can see her? There you go.
Can you hear it?
Yes, I can now. So rewind her.
You can hear me. I don't know if you can hear that. That's what I
We
was.
couldn't hear her at the beginning.
Let me see if I can get that to work. It's not wanting to play nice today. How about that? Any better? Not really. Okay.
We could hear it a minute ago. She was really faint though.
Okay.
It's like it was going through your speakers maybe.
And Mike, I think maybe if you have at the top of your team screen, if you go to the three little dots that say more, it's going to give you some options for audio settings. Like if you go to your settings and then go to, see that?
Yep.
And there's some options there for how the noise is coming out. So maybe play around with those.
Okay. Let's see what we can get here.
Francis, and I'm the Director of Special Education for Floyd County Schools. During the 2018 school year, Floyd County Schools received an on-site monitoring visit that resulted in a corrective action plan from the Division of Learning Services at KDE. This monitoring visit was initiated as a result of complaints from parents and other local agencies alleging that the school district was failing to comply with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and its implementing regulations, specifically to the provision of special education and placement decisions for students with disabilities. This also encompassed response to intervention services being provided to students with validity and fidelity prior to them being determined eligible for special education and related services. Interventions needed to be provided to all students when needed, and not just as a required step to process a special education referral. RTI is good instruction for all students and should have continued after processing a referral, and when referred students did not qualify for specially designed instruction.
We'll hear more from, we will hear more.
Only as good as the level of the.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. We've got her segmented. We'll hear more for her at the end of the thing, but go ahead, let her finish that sentence, Mike.
I believe that was the end of it. Right
Okay.
there.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So we learned that from the special ed corrective action plan that our students just basically weren't getting the instruction that they needed. Period. They weren't getting the core instruction, and they certainly weren't getting the intervention services. So when I came on board, Cinda and I sat down and we realized that we had a big problem. We predicted in February that we were going to have some TSI schools because of the MAP data. We sat down and we pulled that MAP data and we saw what percent of special ed were meeting benchmarks, and we knew right off the bat, this school, this school, this school, and this school is going to be TSI. But it was February when I came. So it was a little late in the game to try to correct that, right? But we could make predictions off just from the MAP data. I went to the superintendent in February and I said, Ms. Shepherd, I believe we're going to have 7 or 8 TSI schools based on these special ed scores from MAP. And that's all. I mean, that was the predictor we used. And we did. We had 6 instead of 7, but we had them, and the schools I predicted were spot on. So if you're not using your map or your iReady data to look at that, you probably should. It'll be a very good indicator. And we're getting ready to do that again right here in a couple of weeks. So Cindy and I sat down and we realized that we're going to have to do 2 things. We're going to have to do 2 things if we want to make sure that FAPE is in place, if we want to reduce the number of TSI schools, and we want to ensure the quality instruction for all kids in our district. We had to change the culture from our kids to your kids, and we had to make sure that all teachers were held accountable at the same level. Now, I know you've probably never seen this in a district, but there are times when the special ed teacher serves more as an aide in a classroom than a real teacher. They might touch the desk and say, Shasta, get on task, or they might write that test, the answers for them. But are they really valued as an educator? Are they held to the same standards as the gen ed teacher? Do they share the same goals and dreams and responsibilities? And most of the time, and this is 31 years for me, and I was a classroom teacher for a long time, that's not the case. That's not the case. So we had to change our culture and we had to change our systems. And so based on that, based on the data that we just collected and what I just told you about, Cinda and her 2 special ed consultants and me and my instructional team came together and we sat down in this office and we got to work. And one of the first things that we did was we said that in order to make this work happen, we all got to believe in it. All of us. And so I'm a Shipley certified trainer. And if you know anything about Shipley systems, how many of you, give me a thumbs up, have ever heard of Jim Shipley and Associate and systems work? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. I'm a little shocked. I don't see everybody, but most of the time somebody will have a little, other than the one I saw. Most people will have a little idea of Jim Shipley and Associates. Well, I'm a certified Jim Shipley trainer. That was something, a badge I earned while being an education recovery leader. And one thing that I learned about being a system leader, you got to have a vision. And it can't be your vision that you wrote down and sent out to people. People have to buy into the vision. They have to help create it. You have to have a mission, and the vision is where you want to go. The mission is how you're going to get there. What steps are you going to take? And then you've got to have some core beliefs and some non-negotiables. Now, most of the time in our line of work, non-negotiables are a bad word. And people say, oh my God, she said non-negotiables. I did, and I do. So let's talk about our vision and mission. We came together as an instructional team. I had a PowerPoint that I kind of had, and we went through and we looked at vision and missions from all the most popular places like Toyota, Harley Davidson, the Dollar General store, the Family Dollar, places that we know that are true and thriving and existing. And we talked about their vision and missions and are they accomplishing those? And then I made a template and I said, let's make us a mission and vision, and let's bring the principals in and let's share this vision and mission with them and see if they can believe in it. And if they're not, then we'll fix it so that every single stakeholder believes in this vision and mission. So at this district, every department, the transportation, finance, bus garage, maintenance, everybody here has a vision and mission that they created with their team. So if you look at your screen, you're going to see the Floyd County Instructional Department mission and vision and core beliefs. And I will tell you that this is our first year and they're rough, and we're going to revise because that's what good people do. And that's the real work. Okay. So our vision is that the Floyd County School District will provide focused, energetic, and positive support to enable our students to grow and learn. And those 3 words, focused, energetic, and positive, were the 3 things that I felt like we were missing. We have to be focused on teaching and learning. We have to be energetic about that. We can't be passive. And we have to be positive because punitive punishment does not change people. Systems, positive role models change people. And then how are we going to get there? We're going to provide high quality learning opportunities, high quality curricula and resources. And we are going to do everything in our power to get out in those schools and model what we want from a district level. So we begin every instructional meeting with these unifying statements. And we use our 30, 60, 90 from our CDIP to measure the work from these two statements. Are we providing that focused, energetic support? Are we providing high quality learning opportunities? How are our high quality instructional resources working out? What kind of trainings do our teachers need? So we take those goals from the CDIP, and everything is around our mission and vision. And we could show you our CDIP, but we won't. So the instructional team then developed some things that they believe in, and they're willing, and I hate to say this, but what you're getting ready to look at are mountains that my instructional team said they were willing to die on to benefit kids. That's what I call a core belief. This is something, daggone it, that I believe with all my heart, and I would fight you over. I believe in these things. So just look down through there. One of them is that they believe that relationships are key. You got to build that trust and that support with teachers, especially if you're going to go into a teacher's room and say, hey, let me help you do something. They got to trust that you can help them do something. You know that, and you got to build that relationship that you're not coming in as the be all end all. And all means all. Equity, ethics, and transparency. When every kid in this district, every kid, special ed, every kid in this district deserves a high quality teacher. They deserve high quality instructional resources, and they deserve high quality curriculum. And if they move from one school to the next, they're not behind. Every child in this district deserves the very best. And then we said data driven, high expectation, innovative, and forward thinking. Growth. We believe in growing. And yes, you may have a learning curve, and yes, you may feel uncomfortable, and yes, your brain may melt as you design programs, but we're going to grow if we're going to stay in Floyd County. And early intervention is key, and it's unacceptable to allow kids to fail. It's just unacceptable. Go to the next page, Mike. These were our non-negotiables, and this group of non-negotiables came from principals. It came from our superintendent and the core organizational leadership team that we have here, and it also came from our central our instructional team. So there's going to be a lot of non-negotiables that you're getting ready to see, but it encompasses a lot of people. So safety, we're not going to compromise on safety. We're going to have kids first. We're going to have the child in the chair in our mind. But here's the problem. That second non-negotiable, do you believe that happens in every school across our state? Does everybody put the kid first? No. Most of the time, schedules are made to benefit who? The teacher. Schedules are made to benefit lunch and recess and PE, and we're not. If we're truly kid focused, teachers are going to be uncomfortable because we're putting them in spots that are hard maybe on them, but right for kids. And you can read on down through there. No excuses, eliminate barriers, be present for the work, positivity, customer focus. Go ahead, Mike. Follow the chain of command, collaboration with all stakeholders. Take ownership. Don't pass the buck. I want to, I have to do this because Miss Anderson made me. No, you own it. And then truly engage kids so that when they come to school, they want to come to school. The better kids are engaged, the fewer times they'll miss. We all know that. The more rigorous the learning, the more they want to come, right? But if they go home every day and say, we didn't do anything today but a worksheet, I don't have to go tomorrow because we're not going to do anything. We got to get rid of that mindset. So a lot of these core beliefs and these non-negotiables are culture changing things that we haven't completely accomplished. Go ahead, Mike. Now, so what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about your school district. Do you have a vision and mission? Do you have core beliefs? How do you feel about non-negotiables? How do you feel about that word? And then I want you to, this is a breakout session, so you're going to be in two groups. If you want to take a screenshot of that, whatever you want to do so that you can remember those, I have them printed so I can, if you're in mine, I'll still have these questions up, but we're going to take about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe longer if you need it. And we're going to talk about these in a breakout session. Mike, you ready?
Shasta, have you been able to split everybody up there?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. She's doing this one.
Well, she's going to try. We'll see what happens.
That's okay. It's virtual. We all know. We know how virtual goes.
Right. And Bill, it says that you're in charge of rooms. Do you want to manage this or do you want me to take over?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I've not done this yet, so thanks.
We're all learning something new today.
Yeah, we
Hey,
are,
see,
we
we're
are.
growing, right? We're growing.
We are growing because here's what happens is the person who usually does the thing isn't here, so we're like forced to grow, right?
Right. That's a system when you have more than one person that can do something, right?
Right. All righty. And let me make sure. So Mike and Serena, you guys both want to be in a room, right?
Yes, we'll kind of facilitate the discussion on this. If you'll put me in a
Alright.
room and Mike in a room.
All righty. Put you in room 1 and let me find Mike. A little list here, friends. Thank you for your patience.
They've been awfully quiet. We're gonna have to get them talking.
There he is. And delete this room. All righty, here we go. Should be moving you guys. Did anybody leave? It's not. Can you
No,
guys tell
I
if
think
anybody
you
has
actually
left?
booted out Serena and Mike. They said that
Oh,
they were
God.
leaving.
Okay, let me see. Y'all, this is why we need Becca.
Doing fine.
Oh, it's because I manually assigned them. It's making me manually assign everyone. Let's try this. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, yep, I see people leaving.
There it goes.
Way to
Yeah.
go, Shasta.
Well done, Shasta.
Except
Yes.
Bridget. Do you just want to hang out in here, Bridget? Why are you in my room?
Are you
Let me find you.
have an option? Oh, Bridget, do you have an option to go to?
I don't see anything.
Okay.
Let me look. Should I have, I mean, should there's something, should there
There'd
be
be a
something?
little, yeah, up on top of your screen, you'd see like a
Oh.
little room thing.
It's because I didn't assign you. Maybe I low key wanted you in here, Bridget.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to assign you right now.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Did it, Shasta.
Well done.
Took a little bit longer. Well, and I think it's because if I had just hit generate rooms, it would have done that. And they only wanted 2 rooms. They didn't. Teams made 6 rooms. or 7 rooms, and they didn't want that.
Sure.
I think that was already set up. I think Becca
Mhm.
may have had that set up from the past, and we're
Yeah.
just so yeah, well done. I really want to practice this. I really, really want to practice this too. So yeah, good work.
I'm seeing like room 1 for some reason they can't hear. So I hope that and I can't solve it without being in the room. So I wonder if they're getting that worked out.
Well, then it's settled. Becca just can't leave
She
on
just can't.
Saturdays.
She just can't. That's
We have to
it. She said,
we
sorry.
grovel through it.
I know, right? Sorry, Becca, but you can't take a
You
vacation.
can't. You just can't.
We love
Becca.
you so much, you can never leave.
But I think it's going well. I mean, all in
Oh,
all,
It totally,
really the
this is,
interactions. Yeah.
this is kind of stuff you just never heard about. I never did as an early young director. And you've got to work with your, you know, she's an assistant superintendent in charge of instruction is what she is. You've got to work with the instructional leadership, the gen ed leadership in the district.
Mm.
Because they say, oh, they're special ed kids. No, they're everyone's kids. The gen ed is leading the charge on MTSS. It's not a special ed issue. So that's why working with them, the senior leadership there at the district, curriculum instruction, assistant super is so vital because they have the influence on the general ed staff. So if Serena and other assistant superintendents say to the general ed staff, hey, these are all our kids. We all need to work hard together. Our general ed staff, our special ed staff, etc. It goes so much further because I did not have that in my first district. And we were they looked at us as kind of a dumping ground. Hey, they're not making it in general ed, so you guys got to take them. Whatever you got to do, get them qualified for special ed kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I just love that this is about leadership. This is not just theory about leadership. This is theory into practice, right? It's like real examples in Floyd County, right? What happens when we have something like a cap or some, things are not working out, going the way. So what will we do differently? How do we approach that? How do we ensure FAPE and what a real live focus on vision and mission looks like? What was it, Harley Davidson and General Dollar and looking at mission statements, right, and vision statements from other organizations. I thought that was really neat. Bring that in. You need buy-in, and yeah, the non-negotiables. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I think too, something that you said, Mike, that made me think when we were working on some IEP, updating the IEP guidance document, we were talking about one of the pieces that we added or wanted to add was the whole, or was it maybe it's SDI? No, it was the SDI guidance document. I can't remember. So many documents. Either way, we, outlined roles and responsibilities because oftentimes it's in those roles and responsibilities that are kind of lost in that gen ed, special ed, specialist, RTI, MTS, like in all that mix, and how oftentimes, and Serena said it, it's sort of like, well, the special ed teacher is just like kind of like a para, a glorified para, really. And it shouldn't be that way, that gen ed is the content experts. Their job and their role is to be the experts in delivering that content to students. In age appropriate ways and all those kinds of things, and where the special ed teacher really is the disability / specially designed instruction expert. And you need both of those roles to have effective instruction, whether they're in co-teaching or station teaching or resource / gen ed classroom teaching, whatever it is. Like you have to have both of those roles, and they both have to know what their roles and responsibilities are and see themselves as experts. That oftentimes they don't see themselves as experts in those two things.
Yeah, you're totally right.
All right, I'm going to bring everybody back.
Are we coming back together?
All right, Serena and Mike. I see Serena. All righty. And I tried to give you guys at least, I know you said 5 or 6 minutes. So I tried to, once I got everybody into the room, I think it was about 5 minutes. Was that okay? Or do you guys need to go back?
I think we said enough. I think we know where we're going. I would just
Okay.
like to say one last thing is that it's one thing to do this vision and mission work at the district level, or it's one thing to do it at the school administration level, but it's a whole nother thing when you get teachers doing it.
Yep.
When the teachers are doing it, oh my goodness, that's when you'll see the change. That's when the culture starts to change. Because when a principal goes in and pulls that vision and mission up and says all kids matter, and you're saying those kids don't matter because they're not mine, that's how you start to change that culture. Now we're running a little bit, I'm lagging a little bit because I can really talk about this, but I want to move on to slide 19. And I want to show you our vision and mission in action. So Mike, you'll probably have to get the screen back if you don't already have it, and pull that the little schoolhouse up. And while Mike is doing that, I want to tell you, when I first came to Floyd County, I had this picture of in my head of this little schoolhouse and these 4 pillars, and I had this plan for these flags flying and the steps having the core values on them. And Mike was like, okay. And so he's kind of made that happen. And we really couldn't get to this point with the schoolhouse until the superintendent and her advisory groups led the work to get the district vision, mission, and core beliefs. But if you look at the flags, that is they contain the vision for the district and the mission for the district. Those 4 pillars are the things that we're going to focus on throughout the school district, and that's going to be our main goals. And eventually someday I hope Mike can make those 4 things their hyperlinks, so when you click on those, everything that we have in place there would come to life. And I hope that we can shore up those core beliefs on those steps, because that's an awful lot to put on a step. So we're working on that. Mike, if you want to go on to the next page. So in order to accomplish our vision and mission, we had to get focused on teaching and learning. So we started, how many of you have ever heard of Clarity for Learning? I don't see any heads. I do see some heads. I got 1. All right. So Clarity for Learning, we realized that John Hattie says, and I want to say that it's 1.75, but I can't remember, so don't quote me on that. But John Hattie says that if we have clarity for teachers and we have clarity for students, that we can make a 1.5+ years of growth in our students. Now, coming from a place where we have 6 TSI schools and we're coming out of a corrective action, what do you think we need to be doing? And coming out of COVID, we need to be narrowing those gaps as quickly as we can narrow them, right? And using the most evidence-based practices that will get us there. So we began with principles with the Clarity for Learning book study. We brought the Clarity for Learning playbook on board, and then we began to look at the key core work processes from KDE. And we built our CDIP around designing and deploying standards. And we have worked with the gradual release model to specifically target teacher clarity. And if you look at the next page, I'm sorry, go on, Mike. You're going to see our 5-year beginning plan for our strategic rollout of clarity. This is a very basic rough draft. We're going to add to that. Superintendent Shepherd has only just begun to work with this. So you will see that, it needs some work on 23, 24, excuse me. But we will, we're still working on that. So we are going to focus on Clarity for Learning. We're going to focus on lesson planning. We're going to focus on PLCs with data analysis. We're going to hold monthly ILP and digital meetings, digital portfolio meetings. We're going to revisit the portrait of a learner. We are going to work every way we can to ensure that our students have that clarity in their learning. So based on the lesson planning and the walkthroughing and, just focusing on this Clarity for Learning, Mike created something that I think is the best thing since sliced bread, and it's called our District Instructional Hub. And so what I envisioned was this place where I could go as an administrator or a teacher, and every single thing I need would be right there. So if somebody had done a walkthrough on me and I want to go to my teacher hub and see my walkthrough, I click on it, ta-da, there it is. If I'm a principal and I want to see how many walkthroughs I've done all year long, I can click on it, ta-da. I can see, am I visiting one teacher too much? Is my feedback general? And as a district leader, I can pull that principal up and I can say, let's say that principal is Shasta. I can pull Shasta up and say, Shasta, you are giving the same general feedback to every single teacher. You need some growth in how to give specific feedback. We got to get some Mike Rutherford for you. You know what I mean? So this hub was born, and Mike, he didn't make it just for principals or just for district leaders. He made it for everybody. And I would like for him to actually pull the hub up, if he can, and show you in real time what this hub looks like and how we use it. And you're going to see some teacher names on here, but you're not going to see kid names. You're not going to see teacher feedback because we're not going to go down that far. But I want you to see the hub. So this is the Floyd County School Hub, and depending on what role you play in this district, it'll depend on what you see there. Now, Mike and I are district administrators, so we can actually see anything we want to see. So if you look at the top where it says district data and you see the EWOC, that is not the EWOC that you can buy. This is a instructional tool that Mike put into digital form for us based on what our instructional team said was important. So as a principal, you can go in here and you can actually submit a new EWOC, and you can do a walkthrough on anybody. It takes about 10 minutes to fill this little jewel out. It's real easy. Mostly it's drop-down boxes. It says 18 pages, but it's really basic. So this tool, we designed it with principal feedback. We don't want to type a lot of things in. We don't want to have to look for the standards, that kind of thing. So Mike could actually show you how the standards are listed in here, but we won't unless you just want to, Mike. But this tool is so valuable. Now, is it all encompassing? No. We probably need to go in there and fix it a little bit better. But at the same time, it was a great place to start. So he's just going to pick somebody here, and he's going to show you how quick we can do this. And he's just going to pick a teacher. Do Amy? Yeah, anybody? There you go. And he's just going to, this is how quick this walkthrough document is. And then is it co-teaching? If we say yes, then it splits off and we can look at a co-teacher and a regular teacher. If we say no, okay, so he said, yes, this is a co-teaching thing that we're going to look at, and we're going to watch station teaching. Then we just type in the teacher, the co-teacher's name, and then that email. And so what we get is a twofold picture. Is the co-teaching effective? Is what they're doing good? And you're going to see that right here. But look how we've got our standards already in there. All they got to do is click on that blue link. They can pull up any standard they want to pull. See up there at the top where it says add file, we can actually take a screenshot of their learning boards. We can look at their learning targets, whatever we want to do, and upload them. Then we can say, is this congruent, correlated, unrelated, or partly posted or not posted? And this is great feedback right here, because this is going to give us like a comprehensive picture. And then there is our gradual release model. And then what kind of assessment did you do? And I really want Mike to show you the formative assessment box down there, the one with the drop down box. And these are samples of formative assessments that they can give. They may have others, but if you're a teacher and you don't know what kind of formative assessment that exists, here's your some possibilities. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, so Mike, you can go on back. There you go. And then if you're doing a summative assessment, and then the principal can give you some overall feedback. So can the directors. So that is the walkthrough in a nutshell, and we can talk about how we do that in a little bit. But for the district purposes, when we go to our hub, we go up here to the main top of the page, and it's going to give us, well, I guess we're going to click on the EWOC again.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of data.
Yeah, so this is our EWOC data. So we can see what kind of assessment design we have. We can see what kind of formative assessments were given, if they were given, and then summative assessments. Now, you would think that's probably normal to see a lot of summative assessments, because what do primary teachers do every Friday? They give a test whether they need to or not, right? They're like, we got a test, it's Friday. We got to come up with a test. So, but if we look at these things, this is the list. We could even do a desk audit should we choose to from here. But this is the way that my directors monitor our principals. So they go out monthly and they have a district monitoring meeting, and this is how they do it. It's kind of like a little mini audit. Are you doing your walkthroughs? We can see up here if how many walkthroughs the principal has done, and then we can see how many walkthroughs the district has as a total. So Mike, can you give me that district total and we'll move forward? Oh, look right there. We've had 1,153 walkthroughs in this district that we've recorded.
And this is.
We can't hear you, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Can now, yes.
We didn't roll this out until November. It took us about a month to build it, and then we rolled it out in November.
So the basics of this was, this is one for all and all for one. This is the accountability piece. This is where we say, I don't care if you're a co-teacher. I don't care if you're a resource teacher. I don't care if you're a gen ed teacher. Everybody's getting a walkthrough. Everybody's being held accountable to the standards. Everybody is, we're all in it together. So we are getting close to Cinda's next video, and when we're done, we'll take a little break. We might be a little bit off. Is that okay, Shasta, if we're just a couple minutes different, or do you want to hold tight to that 11:05 break?
No, I think that that's fine. And I think that this group, this team knows if you need to take care of yourself and go ahead and take your break, then go ahead and do that. But if not, we'll have one here in a few minutes. But yeah, just take care of yourself as you need to, team.
All right. I just don't want to hold you up, but I do want to show you the rest of the special ed director's video. There you go.
Cinda France, Design Instruction. Since 2018, the district instructional team has focused on continuous improvement by analyzing data to make decisions, putting processes, systems, and supports in place that focus on quality instruction, accountability, responsibility, and monitoring to support all staff and increase learning for all students. We have worked collaboratively to address low performance of special education students across the district. Having high expectations in place is important, but data shows that we're only as good as the level of the system that we have in place. In order for systematic change to occur, we needed to make sure that we were not just telling staff what to do, but giving them a voice while providing strategies and supports that foster ownership and commitment for all students to be successful. Schools have focused on being purposeful and intentional with scheduling to ensure that multi-tiered system of supports and co-teaching are being implemented on a daily and consistent basis school-wide. Supports have been provided to individual schools to assist with the implementation of a successful co-teaching design. General and special education teachers were scheduled to have common planning times. During these common planning times, the educators have clearly defined the roles for delivering instruction and managing students. They have analyzed student data, established daily routines, developed lessons, and reflected on their delivery of instruction. Individual co-teaching teams and administrators visited model school sites in other districts to see successful co-teaching and scheduling practices in use. The instruction being provided is planned for and aligned to grade level standards. Educators are using the gradual release model of I do, we do, you do when providing instruction. Students have equitable access to the instruction, resources, and differentiated learning opportunities to meet their unique needs, whether they are in the general education, co-teaching, or resource classroom setting. High expectations are in place, and students are not just reciting information placed on learning boards. They are able to articulate and describe high-quality work and know the relevance for what they are learning and why it is important. Positive, impactful, and supportive relationships are being built between staff and students. Co-teaching has provided smaller instructional groups where students are highly engaged, asking questions and taking ownership of their learning. The district instructional staff has assisted in reviewing lesson plans alongside building level administrators to provide ongoing feedback and coaching to teachers. They have assisted schools with data analysis while modeling and leading PLC meetings at schools across the district. The MTSS instructional lead has been instrumental in not only building a district MTSS team, but school level teams and grade level teams to monitor student progress. Special education consultants have spent time focusing not only on compliance, but instruction. They have participated in common planning with general and special education teachers and assisted in the implementation of co-teaching. They have modeled and provided differentiated instruction and specially designed instruction in the co-teaching and resource settings. The district instructional team is dedicated to continuous improvement. Efforts to plan, implement, monitor, and adjust or continue as needed is ongoing.
So as we take a break, I want you to think about what we've learned or what you've learned about Floyd County. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how this led to MTSS changes.
All right, friends, it is 11:08. So if you guys will be back at 11:13, that'll give everybody 5 minutes to kind of stretch and refill and do all the things you need to do. So we'll see you back at 11:13. All right. It is 11:13. So if you can hear my voice, start making your way back. Wait for a few more cameras to hop on here. All right, Serena and Mike, you guys can take the floor.
Okay, I want to ground you once more and why we're doing the work, and I want to bring us back to that corrective action plan that happened in 2018. And one of the things it said that, and I want to talk to us about those TSI schools and why we think that middle schools, we have more middle schools that are TSI than others. According to the corrective action plan, it said that only 35% of the time was there any differentiated curriculum instruction or assessment present in their site visit. They said that only 26% of the time did they see any higher order questioning or thinking in the classroom. And last but not least, only 48% of what they saw was evidence-based. That's pretty alarming, considering that, and that's why we have 6 TSI schools. So I want to keep coming back to that. And why do we have more middle schools? Because of those things I just read to you. But we also have TSI schools because our MTSS process was not proper and in place correctly. Do you have any questions for me? And if you do, just unmute and talk to me before we move on to MTSS. I will tell you that MTSS is the most misunderstood thing in the world, I believe. I do not think that there's a good understanding of what should go on in an RTI setting, how those procedures and processes should be handled, and how many data points a student needs before we refer. I think it's the most misunderstood concept in the whole world. Yes, you can see our walkthrough. We'll get that for you. Mike, I know you're monitoring the chat. Anything that you ask for in here, if I miss it, Mike will get it for you, okay? That's why I got him. I can't, it's hard to do 2 things at once, but we'll get you. But MTSS is extremely misunderstood. We've been working on MTSS here in Kentucky since, I don't know, before bark was on trees, and we still have troubles. Would y'all agree with me, or am I blowing that out of proportion? Do you all think that MTSS is tough? Yeah, even if you put personnel in place to handle it, it's tough, right? What do we teach them? When do we teach it? How do we monitor it? What's the proper protocol? How do we do behavior? How do we do emotional MTSS? It's all tough. So I want to show you our process, and I want you to hear from our MTSS consultant, Tessica Strong. We're going to do a little bit of talking. We're going to let her talk a little bit because it's good to have your tier 1 strengthened, but there's going to be kids who still need some help. So let's talk about how we looked at how were we serving kids who fell in tier 2s and 3. How did we know when there was ample data for a referral? How did we know if students were learning and meeting those goals? And was it accurate? I mean, was the data we were collecting, was it valid? And how could we ensure that teachers and administrators understood the process? And basically the bottom line, were we helping kids? So let's listen to Tessica, and you're going to see what we did with MTSS.
Floyd County Schools has concentrated on improving our MTSS system. To strengthen the system, we have addressed organization and documentation, support, and teams and processes. When we began working on our MTSS system, it was evident that we needed clarity and organization. We started by revising our district MTSS manual in order to define clear goals, procedures, and criteria to support learning and well-being for all students. The revised manual was a collaboration of the instructional team and the special education department. In order to ensure that students would continue to receive Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions during transitional times, the district created flags in Infinite Campus to identify those students. During this time, the district also moved all student photos, including progress monitoring documentation, to a Google Drive. The shift to electronic photos provided an efficient means to share photos with other stakeholders that needed access. The accessibility also provided faster consultations for teachers and interventionists with consultants. With so many changes in place in such a short period of time, the instructional team decided to provide MTSS leads at each school. The role was created to provide support with communication, data management, and instructional leadership. Leads communicate expectations from district to school, from school to district, and within the school. They also assist with flag creation and check to make sure each student intervention plan is up to date. Leads also assist teachers and interventionists with goal setting and identifying evidence-based interventions. To best support the leads, monthly MTSS lead PLCs are conducted with the instructional consultant, school administrators, and special education consultants. MTSS training is also provided for new teachers during the new teacher cohort. Session topics include criteria defined in the MTSS manual, data to look at, how to write goals and identify evidence-based strategies, and technical support such as how to complete a student intervention plan and where to find a student photo in the Google Drive. We have also strategically built teams that encompass representation for all three facets of MTSS: academics, behavior, and mental wellness. Our district team meets monthly to analyze data from a variety of sources, such as Tableau, benchmark assessments, and behavior screeners in order to identify needs and create action plans to support all students. Student intervention teams also meet monthly at every school to review individual student data to determine goals, intervention strategies, and next steps. Teams use the criteria set in the MTSS manual to determine the intensity of the intervention for each student. When adequate growth is not reflected in progress monitoring and benchmark data, the SIT team will review criteria for a special ed referral for evaluation. Once the SIT team determines the need for evaluation, the instructional consultant will review the student photo to be sure all components are in place and procedures have been followed as outlined in the MTSS manual. If the student photo is in order, it will be passed on to the special education department along with a signed check sheet of required photo contents to be reviewed and signed again by a special education consultant. Once the special ed consultant has reviewed a photo, a determination of suspected categories will be made based on RTI progress monitoring data. During the referral process, the instructional consultant and special education consultants work very closely together to best understand and most appropriately address the needs of the individual student. We are working every day to strengthen our MTSS system and meet the needs of every student in Floyd County.
I want to add that the MTSS leads from every school get a stipend, and I think the stipend's like $1,700, and they have a checklist that they have to do, and they have to do this after school. But our purpose in this was so that no child falls through the cracks. No, that MTSS lead major thing to do is to see, did every child's data get turned in, and does every child have the opportunity to either get extra help, move tiers, go back to tier 1, or be referred for special ed. We're not perfect. This is a flawed system, but it's better than it was. So we have work to do. And if you look at your screen, you're going to see an MTSS behavior screener dashboard. Mike built that. I think that the University of Louisville and others may be wanting to purchase this from him. But Mike, you want to tell them about this dashboard so that they can understand a little bit about what they're seeing?
Sure. I had a chance to work with Ms. Strong, and they were basically putting all their data into a Google Sheet, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we wanted to do is make it a little bit more user-friendly and a little bit more convenient for those that need it, our counselors, our administrators. even our teachers. So I'm going to actually show you just a little bit. I'm going to have to change screens here just for a second, and you will actually be able to see that in action. This is this is pretty new. We've only been really using it for the last few months, and if you notice that number was 7,600, well, that was based across really the year, and that's 7,600 inputs that have been placed in. There's a lot of data in this, but this is actually for the last 3 months, what you're seeing on your screen right now. You see, we've got it broken down into behavioral and emotional. And what is neat by looking at this dashboard, you can actually see the correlation between both when you start drilling down by students. But here we're only going to show you, we can actually drill it down by school. Once we come in here and we break it down in school, I know there was a question earlier that somebody was talking about middle school and MTSS, and that's one thing that we're seeing as well. Our middle school students are really having a hard time right now with our behavioral and emotional areas. So we noticed that a lot of our numbers were pretty high in those areas. So what this actually does is we can break it down all the way to a specific grade level or a specific teacher. So if a teacher is having if higher numbers in the high range, we can actually look at that, see if we can pinpoint what is going on. I'm just going to pull a middle school teacher here, and here's what it looks like when we look at it just by the teacher. So she pretty much just has one student that they can actually target. But what's neat is the breakdown of the areas. So she's seeing on the behavioral side a big spike in the peer rejection. But if you look down here at the bottom too, shy and withdrawn, we can see 27 in that. So this actually is a pretty good breakdown because it ties in. We're noticing this big correlation between the emotional behavior as well as the academics that are going on. And you can actually see here, there's and I'm trying to find where it was, low academic achievement. 19 of her 22 students are low in academic achievement. Well, that's a definite target that we wanted to address in that. But this tool is it's to help narrow down where we need to put our focus. And we are actually getting ready to do a new one with Megan Martin out of the University of Louisville. And we are working in that process right now. So there'll be a new dashboard that'll be coming out. We use data, what's called Looker Studio now. Some of you are probably familiar with that. It's a great tool to collect your data and to display your data. And we use it for everything we do. You can secure it, you can put it, you can drill down by email, all kinds of things that you can do to secure it. But it also gives you a great picture of what it looks like in your district as well.
So let me tell you this, the information that you see on that screen is from a behavior screener called SRSSIE. And every student in Floyd County takes that screener. And then those numbers and we take it 3 times a year. So those numbers then are calculated into this chart. Now, that is only one chart we use, but when we have our monthly MTSS meetings, we bring a district level of instructional leaders here. So we bring principals and we bring our instructional team, and we sit down and we look at data. If there's a kid who's got alarming data, if those 19 kids that out of those 22, we'll pull those kids up. We will say, what can we do to fix these, to help these children? Is it because of COVID? And we just showed you some middle school data that's raw and real. And we have 6 middle school TSI groups. So you think we're not heavily focusing on our middle school? Yes, ma'am, we are. Because that's where our problems are, that's where our problems exist. So what instructional strategies can we change? I'm sorry, Mike.
No, actually, I'm parallel with you here. Let me show you something that I saw just now in this chart. So in the winter, that's December through February, look at the low academic achievement.
That's district-wide.
That's district-wide. Now look at it in the spring. And this is
it's only going to get worse if we don't get it better, right?
Yep.
So this is why this data is so, so, so important. And when we come together as a principal team and we look at this, we don't take excuses. We know they came out of COVID. We know we've got a lot of learning gaps to fill, but how are we going to fill them? Also, just on a side note, every month we meet with our 6 TSI principals individually, and we look at data from their school. We look at attendance, we look at behavior, we look at this. What are you doing for these kids? What's your plan? And then Cinda, who's the special ed director, if there are special ed kids in that group, and we do look specifically at our special ed population, what are we doing for those kids? And you would be shocked at how many, when we have our instructional team meetings, we drill down to the very child in the chair. And we have made some major, now we're not completely done by any means, but we've made some major gains just by doing this kind of data every month. I'm going to pause right here for just a second, and we're going to do a little Jamboard, and we're just going to get you talking because I do not want this to be a sit and get. And I love your questions, and we will share with you as best we can.
So as well here, if you've got the slide deck open, you can go ahead and click on the Jamboard logo. It will take you out to our first one, and it should look like this once you get there. If you need that link, we can give that to you. And we'll drop that in the chat. So if you're familiar with Jamboards, over on the left, there should be a toolbar there that you can put a little sticky note in there and you can actually answer this question.
And I can talk to what is one great thing about MTSS in your district. Good deal. And Mike, will I see those pop up, or how will that work?
Yeah, they should start popping up there. You should be able to put them right here on this. It'll say sticky note. I'm going to just put a test here to make sure you can see that. Oh, there they come.
There they come.
Yeah. We can, oh, there we go. If you move them over so everybody can see them, awesome. Feel free
Especially
to make
me. I'm going to have to get up into your face to see them here. I see that elementary is getting a lot of praise here about their MTSS. It goes back to why do we have 6 TSI middle schools? What are we seeing a trend here, even in your answers? Elementary is getting what they need, but is middle school? Yes, it does force us to ask serious questions. Look at those answers. Can everybody see those answers, Mike?
I believe so. Can everybody see those? Awesome. Great.
So is there any response here that stands out to you that you would like to discuss out loud? Okay. I'm going to go with the pink one where it says our elementary is open and willing to accept guidance and feedback. That's very important, being open and willing. But I'm going to also tell you that sometimes we don't have time to wait for people to be open and willing. The kids in the chair, we got to do some work. We got to be on fire about this work. And I was in a PIMSR training the other day, and I can't quote it directly, but the PIMSR quote on the board, it said, sometimes we have to go forward with an experiment and try it before we say it doesn't work, rather than wait for everybody to buy in. And so that's kind of what I've done here in Floyd County. We've kind of gone forward with the work because at no time are we going to get everybody involved, especially when it requires this kind of work. Especially when it requires this kind of work. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be honest. Sometimes you just have to move forward. And that's what we've done, because every child in this district does not have time to wait for people to decide they want to do a particular thing. And if it's evidence-based and if it's good for kids and you've got a leadership team who can support the teachers in doing it, sometimes you just got to roll with it. And because these kids deserve it. We don't have time. I agree. I love the elephant in the room. this comment says, I'll bring up the elephant in the room about middle school. We have a solid intervention period at our middle school. However, because so many students are failing classes, the bulk of intervention time is used for makeup work. And I'll tell you something. If your tier 1 is strengthened, fewer kids would be failing classes. That's the whole point. You cannot have one without the other. You've got to strengthen them both at the same time. And that is a very hard, heavy lift. I'm going to use bad grammar. I ain't even going to lie to you. That's hard work. And if you're not willing, and Mike can attest to this, if you're not willing to put in some long hours and really withstand some resistance, you're not going to be able to. Okay, I love this next elephant in the room. Resource special ed time is being used for that. It is. One way that we've tried to fix that is we've tried to increase that co-teaching and that small group instruction so that we can do a little bit of differentiation and that a little bit of tiered instruction without pulling out. And then at some schools, especially our elementaries, we have a solid time built in across the school, and we have some rather large elementaries, and we call it like we might call it black cat time. But what this black cat time design is for is that kids who need to be pulled for resource instruction, go to the resource room. Kids who need to be pulled for small group instruction, go to the small group tier, the tutors or the interventionists. And that way, when we get back into our classes, we push in and our special ed teachers push into the main core instruction. All of those are truth. All of those are true. And all of those are systematic problems that you have to fix. And a lot of it is scheduling. And I'll tell you something Cinda and I have done, and it's not been popular. We've pulled individual we've pulled individual teacher schedules, and I mean special ed schedules, and I have pulled principals' master schedules. And I know that scheduling is a site-based decision, but I pull those principals in, and Mike can attest to this, and I say this, and this is wrong. We got to fix it. And then they fix it. But we have to go back to our schedules. I know that's basic, but until we pull special ed teacher schedules and say you cannot spend all your time helping kids do their makeup work, I'm real. I'm honest. And regular ed teachers, until you start saying that my time is valuable and we're going to teach those standards, we're never going to get to where we are. I love your answers. I love you being real, because that's what it's all about. And I know I'm running out of time. There is so much more I could tell you. I'm going to give you, if it's okay to move forward, if you don't have anything else to say, I'm going to give you a short overview, and I probably won't go through every slide that's on there. And we have another little interactive, but we won't get to it. But let me talk to you about how we've tried to change this culture from your kids and my kids to our kids, because that ain't been easy, and it ain't done. We've got a lot of work to do. But one of the ways that we did it was we've always had in Floyd County a grow your own teacher group, and we put them into the teacher leaders and principal groups. But what we did this year is we said we want teacher leaders who can model best practices to other teachers. So we recruited 12 highly qualified teachers. We watched them teach in classrooms. We took a principal recommendation. They had to jump through a lot of hoops and interview with us. And we took these 12 people and we said, we want you to be the disciples of the Clarity for Learning. We want you to model what good core instruction should look like. So we've taken these 12 teachers, we call them the TLC team. And this TLC team has modeled lessons. They've spoken at principals meetings. They've spoken at board meetings. They have actually went out and modeled for other teachers. They lead PLCs. I have a speech language pathologist, and I know I talked with one earlier that's on here who travels about her district. I have a speech language pathologist on this TLC team, and she is actually using the dyslexic toolkit from KDE to plan some small group instruction for our MTSS for the coming year. I have a Head Start teacher on my team who is actually leading middle school PLCs on Clarity for Learning. Because teachers learn from who? Teachers. So our TLC group is called Teaching Learning Coaching Team, and we are all about the support. We also hired Rebecca Morrison, who is our learning instructional coach, and she actually goes into schools. She helps them plan a lesson. She implements that lesson. She does it a couple of times, the teachers do it, and then they have a sit-down meeting and what can we do better? She models formative assessment. She models, I don't know, Mike, she models blended learning at times, whatever it takes. She sits down with principals and goes through their MAP scores. So we have 5 people on our instructional team.
And
5
she,
people.
she is very good about going back and following up. So she gives them a week and then she's back in their classrooms just to see if what they went over is there.
So we have 5 people on our instructional team for 12 schools, 6 TSI schools. We have Mike and Kelsey, who are our digital learning coaches, and they go into the schools and they work on individual learning plans and digital portfolios. And at the end, I'm going to show you a little clip and you probably can't hear it, so we might have to skip it. But my big message to you is core instruction, got to be shored up. MTSS has to be a streamlined process, and you got to have support. From my seat, I seek all the help I can get. I work with the Kentucky Valley Educational Co-op. I work tightly with KDE. I work tightly with Megan Martin in Tier 3 Solutions. And I work tightly, Cinda Francis and I, we are one and the same. We work to ensure that all kids have what they need to be the best that they can be. I could go on and on and on, but I know you're probably tired of me. I do want to take a couple of more minutes, and Shasta, if you want to sing me down, Amazing Grace is a good song. But if you don't care, I would like to go to slide, I think it is slide 38. And I want to talk about why this slide's important, and then we'll bring this to a close. You can't see them, but in your spare, you can't hear them. You can see them, but you can't hear them. In your spare time, and I know you have lots of it, I want you to watch these 2 videos. So Floyd County, a part of our strategic plan is that we developed a digital portfolio that meets the tech standards that are graduation requirements. And we tied that to our ILP program that Mike built. Mike built the digital portfolio. He built the ILP program. So we don't use WIN, and we don't use, what's the other one, Mike? ACES. We don't use any of those things.
Right.
But whatever we've used, we've homegrown because it saves the district money and we have longevity with it. Any kid that ever leaves Floyd County will always have their digital portfolio and their ILP. We've not paid for it. It's part of Floyd County Schools. So the other night we had this wonderful presentation where 7 students across the district came and presented their digital portfolios that showed growth over time. And we invited principals and teachers and anybody who wanted to come and look at these kids. And we had 7 kids present, and 2 of them were special ed. And you can't tell the special ed from the regular ed. Now, you're looking at 2 videos down here. One of these 2 kids is special ed, and he is presenting, or she is presenting their digital portfolio for, they're basically their senior year because or their junior year. We're in the soft rollout part of that. But I want you to watch them in your spare time. When our kids leave Floyd County, I don't want there to be a difference between I'm a special ed kid and I'm a gen ed kid. I want them all to be well equipped. That's our goal. In conclusion, the Executive Officer of Instruction and the DOS work collaboratively with other departments such as KVEC, the technology people, the TLC team, the new teachers, KDE, to make sure our kids are successful. And we do a lot of work to do that. The last thing we have for you is a quick little survey, and Shasta, you can determine if they do that now or if they do it earlier, but I do want to go back to the Padlet. I asked you to think about one thing you wanted to get from this session today. Did you get it? Yes, we can share a digital portfolio. Yes. Did you get it? Is there anything lacking that you want to send me an email about or that I didn't cover? Anything? Do you feel like you were well served today? Give me a nod, give me a thumbs up, put a yes in the chat. All right, good deal. All right. Well, we have a quick little 1-question survey, I think, at the end. And if you'll take that for me, we'd appreciate it. Listen, if you have more questions for the coming school year, I'm here till June 16th, and then I'm out because I'm retiring. Shoot me anything you want between now and June 16th, okay? I'll answer anything I can. And Shasta, they're wanting some things. Can I just send that to you and let you spread the word?
Yeah, if you'll just send those to us and we'll put it all together in an email, and we'll send it out and we'll even add it to the discussion board so that those links will be there as well.
It's too comprehensive to do it all in one day in this amount of time, but I could talk all day. Anytime you want to talk, you call me here at Floyd County and we'll talk. We'll share everything we can with you. Oh, yes, I'll consult. Go ahead and sign me up. Go ahead, put me on your calendar. I'll be there. I'll bring Mike with me.
All righty. And
Thank you.
Mike, if you will, if you'll drop that link in the chat, since it's that one question, I'm sure that they won't mind to sort of go ahead and answer that. And of course, we also have our survey that we need from you guys. Let me go ahead and grab the
Yeah,
screen.
Mike, the survey says we need permission to click on it and answer the question.
Got it.
Yeah, and Shasta, I've dropped the survey, right, Qualtrics survey for Kentucky Leads as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Bill. Well, friends, just an opportunity, just sort of last minute. I know the chat's kind of been rolling. You guys have been utilizing that, but do you have any, final thoughts or reflections or questions for Serena and Mike? Anything you just want to kind of share in our last couple of minutes here?
I'll put my email address here in the chat. If you need me, feel free to email me. And I'll put my cell phone number. So feel free to contact me on my cell and I'll help you any way I can.
Just want to make sure we get plenty of time here for people to think if they have a question. Well, since Serena has given you her cell phone number, I'm just waiting on her to drop her address in here too and invite you to the barbecue. I'm certain that you guys will reach out to her or to Mike if you have any questions. And I just would like to say thank you to Mike and Serena for joining us today, for sharing this information, sharing all these really great tools and resources. I do a lot of work in systems, and I just appreciate that all of these things that you've shared. And I have lots of questions, but I think it's going to be it could take way too long just about how you're incorporating your walkthroughs and coaching. I'm like, this is really good. I want to hear more about this. I want to hear more about this. So I will
Anytime,
reach out to
Shasta,
you.
give me a call.
Yes, I'm like, ooh, I want to dig in. So I appreciate you guys sharing that. And I think Mike, did I see you had your hand raised? Did you have a question?
No, no particular question. I just want to say how much I appreciate it. Just a great session and trying to bring that connection with the special ed departments to the curriculum and instruction department in the school district is so vital for young doses. So I really appreciate it, Serena.
We dropped there. Somebody asked about digital portfolios. We dropped that. We built a help link, and on there you can see examples and different things like that we've used over the last couple of years. She did make a comment that we are in year 2 of a 4-year implementation. So this year we went 9-12. Next year we'll be going 6-12, and then in year 4 it'll be a K-12 fully implemented digital portfolio for all of our students.
All right. Well, thank you all so much then. If there isn't anything else, then I will go ahead and just again remind you to be sure to make sure you fill out the evaluation. We are getting out a couple minutes early, so it would be just fantabulous if you guys could go ahead and do that before you log off today to make sure that we have that data. And just as a reminder, we review that data as a team, we look at that data as a team, and it really does inform future presentations and just how we run things. So please make sure that you do that. Just a reminder, our next Saturday session is the summit in June. So if you're attending the summit, that will be your Saturday session. If you're not attending the summit, then you don't have a session in June. And then after that, we have a July 29th will be our July session. I know that the overwhelming majority of you will be at the summit. We look forward so much to seeing you guys. Super excited about it. We've got a really great lineup of just presenters and information coming your way. Awesome swag. I made sure to order like really good stuff. Like it's not stuff that you'd find at the Dollar Tree. I love the Dollar Tree. Former teacher, love the Dollar Tree, but it is not Dollar Tree stuff. So I just wanted to let y'all know it's going to be awesome. Are there any other questions from the room?
Shasta, I put that folder in there that's got a lot of our resources. Somebody asked for questions to our walkthrough document, those type of things, all that's in there.
Awesome. Great. And we'll make sure that we send this out to you guys as well, because we do know that once you leave this meeting, you kind of lose those links. So we will make sure that we collect all of this and put it into one space as well. Thank you, Mike and Serena, for going ahead and getting that going for us. Alrighty. If there isn't anything else, then we are out a few minutes early. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you guys in a month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.